Today we're going to paint some daisies. I have gone ahead and sketched out my daisies and stems with a graphite 2H mechanical pencil. I have taken masking fluid and masked out the flowers and the stems. And now I'm mixing the colors that we're going to use today. Today I'm going to be using Azo Green by M. Graham and Company, Green Gold by Winsor and Newton Professional, Cadmium Yellow Hue, and Ultramarine Deep by Holbein. So here I'm just mixing my colors. One color I failed to tell you about is I am using a Cadmium Orange. I also have a brown already on my palette that I'll be re-wetting and using. Mix up several different levels of green to give us a mixture. I'm going to take a spray bottle here and wet the paper and start putting my background in. I did use a silicone brush to apply my masking fluid. You want to use a cotton paper for masking fluid. In my opinion, other types of paper, non-cotton paper, it usually peels or tears. So I like to use cotton paper, especially if I'm going to be using masking fluid. I'm using Fabriano 140 pound 100% cotton watercolor paper for this. I'm putting in the lighter colors and then we'll start working in deeper. On masking fluid, you want to make sure that you have your darker colors around the masking fluid, because of course they're going to be white flowers and stems, and if it's not real dark they're just not going to show. It's going to look weird. So always make sure that around your white flowers you have a darker background to promote the whiteness of your watercolor. I'm not using white watercolor in this painting. I'm not using wash. All the white that we'll have is from masking it out and leaving it to show through on the painting. Here I'm getting the deeper blues and greens to get this around the flower, the masking fluid around the flowers. Make sure your paper stays wet. If it does start drying, I used a water bottle. Spray it, get that water moving. You don't want blooms in this. It would be kind of hard to decipher. I mean, it's not going to be the end of the world if you do, but I wanted it to look like a very dark greenish background, so I made sure I used a lot of water, kept the paint moving. You'll notice that I pick it up and move it around to get the paint to run in different directions. And I'm working pretty fast. This is actually real time. I didn't speed this video up at all, so everything you see me doing is in real time. Of course, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and I'd be happy to answer them for you. In addition, if you haven't subscribed to my channel and would like to know when another video comes up, please hit the subscribe button and you'll get a notification when I upload another video. If any of you have recently seen, I battled cancer for over a year, so I was gone for a long time. But I've been back, and my game plan is to hopefully do at least one a week. Another thing, I don't want them to be very long. I think this one's about 25 minutes. But the shorter the better for me. I can't talk for a long time. I'll lose my voice. So that's part of it too. But I know people don't like to sit there in front of videos forever. So here I'm using the darker green just to get that grass in the background to show through with that yellow gold and yellows. And here I'm going to turn it upside down if I don't drop it. And let the paint run down and just put some more dark green from the bottom. On the colors you choose, also just make sure you choose colors that work well together. I've got yellows and greens and blues, which do. You're going to get colors that are not going to make mud, but be aware of what you're using. You may want to test it out before you start painting, just to make sure when they do all mix together, you don't end up with a ugly brown or muddy color. So here we got our yellows and everything seeping through, our greens, our dark greens, and here I'm going to put in even some darker greens, just a few, and just swiping up with my brush. I used a wash brush, and I used a number 8 long round, and a third brush. I'll put them down below. Any brush will do, whatever brush you have that you feel comfortable with. So here you can see I'm putting the dark greens basically behind these flowers so they really pop when I take the masking fluid off. Here I, excuse me, cleaned my brush and took off the excess water, and I'm just using it to lift paint off the top portion of this painting to look like there are very light daisies in the background. I just wanted to look like they were deep in the leaves and of the greenery, but I will actually end up putting some centers in them as well towards the end so that they look like very low-key in the background type daisies. So when you do this, just my water really should be changed. It's not, but I'm using green on green here. Clean your brush, take off the excess water, rub it on the paper, push down, it will lift the paint up, clean it off and start again. Now make sure it's drying at this point, or otherwise it's just going to run into each other. So everything's real wet. We're letting the paint seep into the paper. And I'm using my heat tool to dry this. I cut this part out. Just make sure that it's all dry. This took probably 3 minutes total, but you don't need to see me waving a heat tool around. But make sure it's dry. The heat is not going to hurt the masking fluid. And now I'm using a tool that I use to take off masking fluid. And I just usually rub in one direction and it just comes right up. So here we see our daisies and we see the buds. So, and then we'll see the stems. So what I did, I think I did 5 daisies and 3 buds. Typically you want to do an odd number. It's more appealing to the eye. And yes, I have 8, but actually I did 5 large daisies and 3 buds. So I did odd numbers in the types, but an even number in total. Another thing you want to make sure when you're doing your masking fluid is make sure you bring those stems down in the right direction. So when I drew this, I wanted them all to be pointed in different directions. And so what I typically do is put the circle of the flower first, which will determine which way my flower will face. If it's flat and skinnier, it's going to be a flat, wide flower. If it's in the middle, it's going to be short on one side and longer on the other. Then you can see that it's tilting upwards or downwards or inwards or outwards. That is what's going to help with that. These have layers of petals, so what I did is I just did the masking fluid in like strips. So when it's painted and done, it's actually going to look like multi-layered daisies. So here I'm putting in the yellows of my daisies. This is the one that's flat. So you can see the flower is wide but narrow. And there it ran. I had too much water on my brush. So if you catch it quickly, you can use your paintbrush, or I just use a towel. I always have a towel. And wipe it up and start again. This flower here, actually, the stem comes from the back and cuts down across. It's to its side looking out. So now I'm going to paint the buds, and I'm putting some green in here. Again, there's 3 buds. See how the white just pops from the green? It just looks really nice. So here is actually going to be 3 different colors of green. I'm going on the left side. I'm going to go down all the stems, make sure I start at the top, meet the stem at the bottom through the flowers like they grew. And then I'm going to put another color down the right side, which will be a little bit lighter. And then I'm going to come in and put a darker greenish blue on the left hand side. And it's just going to make it look like the sun is shining through the leaves and showing reflections and shadows. This is a 5x7, but you could actually do like a 4x6 version of this, and it'd make a beautiful card. It's on watercolor paper, and just glue it to some cardstock, cut it down, put a greeting on it, or no greeting, just write a note inside. I think it would make someone smile and make them feel happy. So here I'm still working on my greens. You can see the white shining through, but we're getting darker and darker as we go. So here I'm going in with the dark green. Now I'm not going completely down the stem. I'm skipping around where it kind of shows light and dark on that left side. One of the first things I ever learned, and I never have forgotten it, is always make sure your stems come from the center of the flower. If the flower is turned out, then it's going to, like the one in the very top, the stem is actually coming out the left side from the middle of the flower and going down. All the other flowers, they're just going straight down. So it needs to make sense. So make sure your stem starts from the center and then goes through the flower, and you show the stem in the openings and then make it go all the way down. So now I'm getting a darker greenish blue, and this is what's really going to set this off. I just go one flower at a time, one stem at a time, because if I don't, I'll get lost. You just want to follow through and make, like I said, make sure it makes sense. I'm putting another layer of dark green on here to kind of make those pop, the buds. And like I said, I'm just skipping around. It's not one straight line. It's almost like a jagged line to give it some depth and some texture. Now I didn't put leaves on these. You can. I just didn't care to. In my view, the leaves were further down the stems, so that's why I left them off. But if you like painting leaves, put the leaves on there. So now I'm putting a very light blue on the white, and you're like, those are daisies, they're not blue. Well, white is not white. It's always got a hint of a gray or a blue as a color. So what I chose to do here is very loosely put in a light blue tint on these daisies, and some of the white shines through, but after it dries and you look at it, you're like, well, they still look white, really, even though they do have some blue in there. So you need your shadows to make that happen. So this brush here, and I cannot think of the name of it, but I'll put it down below. It's kind of unique. It has a really thick barrel, and it's got hairs coming out the middle of it that makes it work like a liner. So it holds a lot of water, a lot of paint, and you can just go for days on very detailed, intricate strokes. But for the life of me, the name of it escapes me. And this one I did a little bit darker blue because it's kind of underneath that other flower further in the darkness. But the white's still there, very light blue. And then we're going to make these pop even a little bit more. So I'm taking the yellow and I'm going around the first yellow, but I want to leave some of the lighter color open, so you're getting two colors shining through, a highlight of the center of the flower. And it's okay if you only do this on a certain side. I just chose to do it over the whole center of the flowers today. I do them both ways. So now I'm getting the orange, and I'm going to put some orange in these white areas that I lifted paint to insinuate there's some daisies in the background. You could have painted more daisies. You could have left it just green. Make it your painting. Enjoy the process. Experiment. Have fun. That's what it's all about. So now I'm picking up some of the brown that was left on my palette, and I'm going right on the edge of the center of the flower and the petals. And this is just going to make this center pop like it's lifted from the petals and really make the flowers pop. I think this is my favorite part of painting flowers, is watching the flowers come to life. Most of the paintings that I do on this channel are available for purchase on my website. This one is not. This one was actually for a friend of mine. So we're drying it again. Again, I'm cutting most of that out. You can use a hair dryer. I have a hair dryer here too, but my heat tool it's smaller, and you can use either one. So I'm doing my orange, and I'm really going to try to pop these centers one last time. I want to thank you for watching. And if you like this video and would like to see more, like I said, please subscribe. Give me a thumbs up if you've learned anything or enjoyed watching this video. You're welcome to share it with your friends. And I'm hoping to have another video up next week. At the end here, I'll show you a picture of the dried version of the painting. Putting a little bit of orange in those buds, which makes the white pop. It's just that contrast back and forth. You just got to play with it until you get it the way you like it. And here's the final painting. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.